Hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the group chat, part of the two-way family. It's good to see you. It'll be good to hear from you. We want you to participate in our show, share what's on your mind. Raise your hand. We'll call on you and get to participate. It'll be grand, but please remember to manifest the two-way ethos of peace, love, and understanding as you participate in the show. Same deal goes for the actual chat portion, wherever you're chatting, wherever you're commenting, please do that, but manifest that ethos. We would really appreciate it. I'm Robby Soave, and today I am joined, as always, by the Honorable Nina Turner, my friend. Also some other friends, Amber Duke, who is editor-in-chief of the Daily Caller, also does a show with me called Free Media, and Chris Hahn. You know him as the aggressive, progressive podcaster. We love having him here on Two Way. Great to see you all. Lots of interesting things to discuss today, including some news that broke just a few hours ago. I was taking a little nap, frankly, as it happened, and woke up to the news that Pam Bondi is no more in terms of her role as Attorney General. She is exiting the administration. Word on the street is Trump is frustrated with her, or was frustrated with her, for a number of reasons, although he said perfectly nice things in his statement announcing her exit. I guess I'll come to you first, Amber, because I know you and I have talked about her doing maybe not the best job from the MAGA perspective. And also, I had forgotten the things she said about hate speech that were bad. And of course, the Epstein issue was just so horrifically botched by her. That was the one that was really under her control. And like, there was no reason she had to screw up that so bad, saying she has a client list, but then there's no client list. So then everyone's like, well, what are you covering up? Like, that was just a totally unforced error that she committed. And I know Trump himself is mostly just frustrated that she won't take the fights to the deep state, that sort of thing. What's your take?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was really a comms issue. That's what the big fervor about her comments on the Epstein files, I think, were generally about. But I mean, it's also general perceived incompetence. And there were a lot of conservatives who were concerned about the pick from the jump because she, in addition to those hate speech comments, back when she was serving in Florida, she had not a great record on 2A issues, on Second Amendment issues,
Mm.
which concerned a lot of people about how in line with the president's agenda she was going to end up being. There was this reporting that she supposedly tipped off Eric Swalwell to the fact that they were going to be releasing the Fang Fang files. A source in the admin told us that's BS. Who knows
Hmm.
who's telling the truth on that one? But apparently Trump had been thinking about this for quite some time and decided it was time for change at the DOJ. Apparently, there's no bad blood. We'll see. I mean, there's got to be some bad blood, at least from Bondi's perspective, I would think. And then an admin official also told us that there's apparently not a rush to fill the position, but there's already some jockeying going on. Lee Zeldin's name has been
I heard
floated.
that
Mike
name
Lee's been
today.
floated.
Yeah.
Apparently, there was a staff meeting at the EPA earlier this week where, in retrospect, staffers are looking at it and saying, was he like telling us goodbye? So
Mm.
it very well could be him. We'll see how it all shakes
Have
out.
you heard any Ron DeSantis speculation whatsoever?
People are pushing him, but like, let's be real. Is Trump gonna make Ron DeSantis AG?
Hmm.
They've mended their relationship as far as it can be mended, but I find it unlikely that he would suddenly give him some lifeline from his term ending as governor.
Hmm. Interesting. Chris, Nina, take it away.
I mean, look, we know how Trump judges his cabinet officials. How do they do on television?
Right.
And she's had a bad run. Her, according to Trump, ratings are down.
Right.
She looked pretty bad at that hearing. And I think that's it, right? So we want somebody who's good on TV. I happen to know Lee Zeldin pretty well. He was my congressman. I knew him before
Hmm.
he was elected to office. Um, he's actually pretty good on TV. And I
Hmm.
think that Lee Zeldin will go on TV and go before Congress and will not look as bad as her. I think he will perhaps have the same problem she has. I mean, I'm an attorney. It costs a lot of money to become an attorney, right?
Mhm.
I'm still paying my student loans, believe it or not. I've been out of law school since 1999.
Oh boy.
I had to roll it into a thing. It's a whole thing. It's not
Yeah.
worth paying off. I'd rather leave in money. But the bottom line is the U.S. attorneys used to be the gold standard of prosecution across this country, and law students aspired to go work in the U.S. attorney's office. And there has been a brain drain at the U.S. attorney's office under Trump and Bondi that may take decades to reverse.
Mm.
And I think that leaves us less safe as Americans, leaves us less competent. And it showed in Trump's selected prosecutions that they couldn't even get the paperwork straight.
Mm. What do you say, Nina?
Good riddance. I mean, I've been waiting. I've been waiting. Look, I even brought me some popcorn today, y'all. I knew it was a matter of time before she was gone. She, my grandmother used to say, if you dig a ditch, you better dig two. When you dig one for somebody else, and just the way that she comes at Congress constantly, no matter what, her binder full of jabs, was Senator Romney, who had or then Governor Romney, had a binder full of women when he was running president, and she had a binder full of jabs for every congressperson that she went up against in committee. Just such disrespectful person on top of her incompetence. And then, yes, as Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, especially for President Donald J. Trump. And she failed, epic fail. So I knew it was a matter of time before that love affair was over. So what they're saying is he's going to put her somewhere. He's going to put her on the island of misfit toys. That's where she's going. But she's done. And,
is Christy Nome still getting Shield of the West or whatever the title thing was? It sounded
she
like
was
something
down
on
there
Lord
with
of the
Corey
Rings.
Lewandowski at their,
Oh, really?
little conference. Yeah,
That's
they sat
probably
next
totally
to one
innocent.
another.
How funny them running into each other again. Isn't that
Yeah,
odd? Isn't that
it's an
unusual?
Amazing
weird
how that
coincidence.
happens. Coincidental.
Wow. Huh. So funny. Okay. We've got a hand, I think. Let's get your thoughts. Is that Anthony is up, I believe?
the greats, Anthony.
Good to see you. Let's start the
Thanks.
show off proper.
Yeah, I just wanted to get this question in real quick. So I kind of want to touch on something I said. Nina was here for this about something I said last week. Nina, if you can, I don't want to have to repeat it. Can you explain what I said last week, and then I'm going to touch on, kind of expand on it.
Wait, which part, Anthony?
The No Kings.
You set up a little challenge for her. That's fun.
So
did you study for this test?
Yeah. I didn't know.
Anthony's making us work.
Got to remember what I said. Remember what Anthony said.
I wasn't here last week, Anthony, but you know what you said last week was very important.
I wasn't
it needs
here
to be
either,
resaid.
It was great.
First of all, Anthony threw papers on my behalf, so Robby threw papers up. I didn't have papers. Anthony covered me. So
bravo.
Anthony basically was saying that the No Kings crowd is kind of a middle-aged white woman group of people, mostly. And Anthony, I don't remember if you said it was performative. I mean, you weren't
basically after I got that, I got a lot of vitriol for saying that, and I think people misunderstood. Not you guys,
but you're right.
Who came at you? Forget those people.
But it was just people online. But basically, what I was trying to say, and I wasn't trying to hate on these people. What I was basically saying is that young people, and I know friends of mine from across the political spectrum who are further to the right than me, to straight up people that are like Zoran Mamdani socialists. And for what I hear from them is a lot of them are dissatisfied with the status quo because of the economy, because our generation is the generation, probably one of the first, if not the first generation, that's going to have it worse off than our parents and grandparents. And the reason why I'm not saying that there's no young people at the No Kings protest, but a lot of my friends, and I asked them, like, well, what's your opinion? Is they feel like a lot of the boomers, the people, they benefited from a system that we didn't. And that in many cases, they're trying to preserve a status quo. Now, some say, oh, we're trying to preserve democracy, and that's true, and I get that. But the thing is, for a lot of young people, they want to blow up the system. I'm not saying I think that. I'm saying a lot of people that I know think that. And for some, that's why they voted for Trump. Some, that's why they're supportive of Zoran Mamdani, because they see them as people they want to burn down the system because the system hasn't worked for them. And whenever I said that, or sort of said something like that last week, and people were sort of saying, "Oh, you don't care about Trump doing this." And I'm not saying I don't care, but I'm saying that for young people, our number one issue is the economy, because we're not getting any of the money, if you get what I mean. So that's just what I was going to say.
Yeah, Anthony, forget those people who came at you. You were very respectful. That demographic, I mean, I think Robby was saying that you're right about the demographic. And that's not wrong. I mean, I'm not mad at them for going out there exercising their constitutional right, but demographically, it is mostly white women of a certain age group. So,
Well, just, when 8 million people get together to do something, that is a tipping point number of people in America, whatever demographic they are from.
Oh, no, I wasn't downplaying. I was just saying.
There has never been protests in this country where 8 million people showed up, not even during the Vietnam War, right? So we are in a situation right now where 3 times now there have been millions of people in the streets, and they are not protesting a war or a policy. They are literally protesting a person, Donald Trump, right? So whether they are middle-aged white women or Gen Xers or baby boomers, and please, my Gen Z friend, do not lump us Gen Xers in with baby boomers. We have as much hatred towards them as you do. But maybe not hatred. That's a bad word. Jealousy, that's the word. But 8 million people, as a guy who's been in politics his whole life, 100 people show up at a board meeting, it usually changes a policy on local level. 8 million people taken to the streets. I got to tell you, there's an earthquake coming in November. And that 8 million is probably representative of more like 80 million people's actual opinions.
I mean, I don't disagree that there is going to be a reckoning. I think even fairly ardent backers of the president are disappointed by the number of sustainable accomplishments up till now. Seems like a lot was right. I mean, this birthright citizenship is the issue, is a good example, right? Trump declared that. Now it's before the Supreme Court. I think even people who absolutely want it to survive are very skeptical that it will.
7-2.
Is Congress gonna? The Republicans control Congress right now. They have the presidency. They have a supportive Supreme Court. What tangible policy goals are they notching? And it does speak to the economy and to what you were saying, Anthony. I mean, for me, it's some of it is the entitlement state, and I know this is unpopular, but it's such a transfer of. It's so hard, I think, for young people now to buy homes, to start families, to afford childcare. It's not like everything is getting worse. A lot of things are getting better and more affordable, and just like things get better over time. But not everything gets better for all people at the same time. And like the things young people need, especially, I think are falling out of reach, or there's a perception that they're falling out of reach. I was seeing where is it today? Oh, I found it. Penn Wharton study shows annual federal outlays to senior citizens are $43,000 per capita. To people under 26, it's $4,000. So we're getting like 10 times as much benefit for senior citizens who are already wealthier on average anyway. I think that's the problem.
Well,
that somebody in government needs to fix.
A lot of that is healthcare, right?
A lot of it is healthcare, but
a lot of it's almost all healthcare. And if
sure,
look, I'm with Nina. Let's get universal healthcare, and then that'll balance that number out dramatically, right? In this country, and it'll give young people an opportunity to be entrepreneurial and not have to go work at Starbucks because they give a wage and a healthcare plan. And I think that's part of the problem in America right now that other countries, industrial countries around the world don't have, where young people are actually doing significantly better.
Well, but young people don't need to pay even more money for older Americans' health care, right? They need more housing.
Why would they
to
be
be built,
paying more money if there
or
were
they
more
need
people,
more
if there were
job
younger people
opportunities?
in the healthcare system that that was helping fund healthcare for older people, healthcare would cost less for everybody. We pay more per capita than any other country on the planet because we do it like idiots here. We have an idiotic way of doing healthcare. There's a middleman.
I mean, I agree.
That's charging more than the doctor in most cases.
We all
and
agree
it's time
with
for that to go.
Yes. Totally agree with that. But even if you say universal, I mean, for all I know, some kind of universal healthcare thing would be better than the system we have now. You're right. The system we have now is
all you gotta do is look. All you gotta do is look anywhere else in the world, and you could see that it works better. Right? Anywhere else.
Well,
Canada. I'll tell you what. You and I
they
can
come
go see
here
a
to
hockey
get
game in
treatment,
Canada.
though, my friend.
Let's go to Canada. We'll go watch a hockey game, and then we'll go to get health care while we're there.
I mean, I'm from Michigan. There were people crossing the border to get health care in my state.
Exactly. So you know.
No, crossing from Canada to Michigan because they had to wait in these long
They don't file bankruptcy because of medical debt. I tell you that.
We're the only one.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. They're not putting insulin on credit cards. I mean, why is it so it's okay to spend almost $2 billion a day for a war that we shouldn't even be in? But when we start to talk about the social contract with one another in a hegemonic nation known as the United States of America, and you got the president sitting up there saying, we're a big country. We got wars to pay for. We don't have time for Medicare.
We can't pay for health care. We can't pay for child care.
Maybe war. The money we pay for
always money for war in this country. Always. That's where young people should be focusing their anchor, including you, Robby. Always money for war, never money for us.
I won't.
When are we going to get a peace dividend in America?
Yeah,
never.
I'm not going to cough up any more money for war. Amber, I don't think you really want to spend all that much money on more war either.
No, I do not. No, my thoughts about this war have not been secret. I've said them on Two Way before. And I think when you look at the group of young people who is part of what a lot of people call the new right, and it's sort of the populist nationalist right, they tie a lot of these issues together in a unique way, which is that they're more supportive, I think, of universal healthcare, more liberal on economics generally, or more progressive on economics. But then they also have really right-wing views on immigration, because when we're talking about things like housing and jobs, they view illegal immigration as a huge problem for access to those systems, right? Whether it's the supply of housing that's available, the welfare transfers that are going to non-citizens, and then on jobs, when you have 20 million illegal aliens who are able to get work permits under the Biden administration, they're like, well, where's my nice job, right? Like, maybe I would like to work in manual labor, but I'm getting priced out by someone who's not supposed to be here in the first place. So that's where I'd
like to meet that person. I would. I'd like to meet that 18 to 25-year-old that's saying, you know what? I want to get a job in the field and I want to do some manual labor. I've been around a long time. I haven't met any of them.
Well, I grew up with them, so.
Well, okay. I don't believe you. And I'm telling you right now,
I'm lying.
I don't know. I mean, look, you grew up with guys who wanted a job on a farm. Okay. There are people who want to own farms and do better, and they understand the value of people coming to this country and refreshing the labor market like our ancestors did, my grandparents did. I'm sure yours did as well, right? And they came here and they started at the bottom, and each generation got better. And I think, unfortunately, our young people in this country have been lied to about immigration. They think it is a net negative, that it is them versus the immigrant. It is not. It is the people who are holding them down, pretty much the boomers who are basically taking control of everything. It is not
Why
the new
can't
people
it be
coming
both,
to this country.
Chris? Why can't it be both?
So what are you suggesting? That the United States change its complete character, which is what Donald Trump is trying to do by his birthright citizenship and his immigration policies.
Is 20 million illegal aliens? Or
the character of the United States for the past 250 years has been refreshed energy in the workplace and in the innovative sector by people coming in from other countries and adding to our melting pot. That is what has happened here for the last 250 years. This is not new, right? If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, there are lots of people who are first or second generation Americans that are here.
Well, that might be a different category. Go ahead,
it's
Amber.
a different category, obviously, but also I'm glad you brought up Fortune 500 companies, because it is interesting that, a lot of progressives talk about how we need to be fighting back against corporations, and we're, anti-monopolies, and we want to make sure that the working class person has a fighting chance. But who likes illegal immigration more than the big corporations, right? Because they get cheap labor that they can treat like absolute crap. And even when we're talking about legal immigration, whether it's H-1B visas, H-2As, you have people who are locked into a system where their employers treat them like servants, basically, because they know that they're relying on these companies to be able to keep their access to the United States. And we have seen numerous examples of people having to train their replacements on H-1B visas. And corporations love it. So we're anti-corporation and we want to challenge them, except for
we need comprehensive immigration reform, like the reform that was the bipartisan reform that was in the Senate that didn't get a good vote. We need
that was
the 2013 Border Security and Immigration Modernization Act, which passed the Senate, didn't get a vote in John Boehner's House because he wanted the issue for the election. Enough. We need comprehensive immigration reform, and we need to allow people who are here in this country who have work permits to be organized, because workers who are not organized are often exploited, whether they are Americans or non-citizens.
I mean, the status quo that emerges where there's one group of people in the labor pool under a certain set of rules and advantages in terms of their competitive advantage because they can be paid less, or a disadvantage for them as a whole for that reason, versus another native pool that is subject to regulation. That is even like from my perspective, seems like an unfair and untenable situation, a situation that obviously needs to be addressed to lower the level of resentment and make sure it's fair competition to everyone. And, in some degree, like, I want people here, if they're going to work, if they're going to compete for good jobs, that's good, I think. If they're going to come here and just, flood the education system or the healthcare system or rip off the welfare system, as we see in some of our states, of course, nobody wants that. And it radicalizes the whole country against immigration. And that's not good. So I wish Congress would do something.
That's what's happening, and that's not what's happening. Not even a little bit. If you look at the real data and not the made-up right-wing talking points on immigration, you'll see it's a net positive to this country, both economically and in the terms of advancement that we've already discussed.
GDP get bigger, but how does the working class average American benefit?
I mean, GDP getting bigger is a good thing. I agree that it's a net good thing. I mean, we can't be a superpower if our economy is. You're right, though, Amber, that it's not the only. I mean, this is like leftist framing, which is why I don't love it. But it could be the case that the richest or whatever are hoarding all of these gains, and it's not going to ever. Like, that could be the case, and that would be bad, and that would be something people on the left would object to, and people on the populist right would be object to. I don't think we can be a competitive superpower against China and others unless we have a lot of the smartest, especially tech people here, working here, building companies, and enough even low-level or low-skilled people to do that. But that doesn't mean our current exact arrangement for how it's happening.
And unfortunately, this administration is scaring those best and brightest from around the world away, and they're going to our competitors. One more thing that we will lose because of our fancying Donald Trump this time, we will lose the ability to attract the best and brightest from around the world. And I don't know that we're going to get it back right away. That's the thing that scares me the most. A lot of these...
There you go. Europe, where they can't build anything there because of the stranglehold that the European Union has on entrepreneurship.
I don't know where they're going to go, Bobby, but they're not going to come here, right? They're not going to come here where they're going to get beat up by an ICE agent because they're walking on the street. That's not going to happen, right? They're going to go to China. They're going to go someplace that wants them, that understands.
The transfer happening right now is from California to Florida, right? They're fleeing the high tax areas for the friendly business regulated areas.
I'm talking about a student coming to MIT or coming to Harvard, right? We're both attacking those, these elite institutions that used to attract people from around the world. And then we're saying, hey, get out of here. I think we should be stapling visas to their diplomas and keeping them here, keeping that intellect here in this country so we can innovate and create more jobs.
All right, we've got Colleen up, I think, had a hand raised. Although I don't see it now, but I'm told you did. Oh, you do. There it is. Hello.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Just a couple of things. First of all, hi, Nina. Hi, Chris. I agree with you guys on the healthcare. Nina knows I'm a big advocate. I lived in Europe for many years of universal healthcare. Just the very fact that we spend $14,000 a person here, and it's management, and Europeans on average spend $6,000, and they have better health outcomes. But Robby is correct about Canadians because they have a shortage of doctors there, but they're unique. But I definitely think it helps entrepreneurship and people not staying in jobs, which they do here. Well, everyone always say, I can't leave my job because of healthcare. In Europe, they don't have that problem. They can move on. But then Robby's correct also. They don't have our entrepreneurial spirit. So, it's a balancing act. But our universal healthcare system could be much better. Gen Z, I have 2 Gen Z sons, recent college grads. They luckily are getting jobs, but it's a ticking time bomb, the Gen Z situation in this country. I think it is something that has to be addressed and looked at because they are struggling and they're resentful. And I disagree with you, Chris. I think some even young college grads would build houses and do stuff like that if that was a job that they could take, because a lot of them are unemployed. And
Why
they
can't
get
they
good
take
college
it? Like,
degrees and they're young. I have sons, so I know the situation with them, but they have a lot of energy. They would love to learn how to build a house or
I don't disagree with you, but there are people who do that. I don't think that there are a lot of people who want to do that have a hard time finding that. That is a place where AI cannot compete, right? AI is never going to hold a hammer. I mean, I hope not. That would be scary, but
right.
It is something that is available, and I think
I do agree. You are right about that. As we look at which fields are going to be disrupted the fastest, if you got your degree in low-level legal research,
you're dead.
You made a huge mistake, unfortunately. Not that it was like a foreseeable
The first
error.
5 years of my career, I used to spend 40 hours a week doing research that AI could do in 1 minute.
Yep. Gone.
I heard recently from a bunch of Stanford kids that they were all told that STEM was the way to go. If you get a STEM job, you're gonna be just fine. They've got these top level computer science graduates who have been completely unable to find work. It's
amazing.
I really, really worry for this generation and that resentment that was mentioned by Colleen.
I worry, and I hear that. Although, I gotta keep. I don't know exactly when any of you people Amber, you're like 7 or 8 years younger than me, I think.
I graduated 16.
Graduated 16.
2016. Yeah.
2000.
All right, then let me apologize for my tone.
That's okay.
I graduated in 2010.
I can take it.
Horrible recession. We couldn't get unpaid internships for like 2 years. There was nothing. There was no one was hiring anything in the kind of liberal arts, journalism adjacent. I mean, now journalism is a disaster now, but again, I don't know. It's tough. It's always tough for new waves of college graduates. And anyone, I obviously feel bad who are suckered by like college admission or, college job planning type people who are like, oh yeah, go and take more debt, take another year, really find yourself. Really think about it. Really, like, those people should all, I don't actually mean that they should all be killed, but they're like, that is so dishonest and such bad advice. Please do not go into debt, period, for a college degree. Unless, if you are very wealthy, your family's very wealthy, do whatever you want. Then who cares? Then if you just like love being in school and you have a lot of money, have fun. But if do not take significant levels of debt at the don't get $100,000 in debt for something that you have no idea whether this can. I mean, there are a couple fields where you have, doctor, you have pretty good odds that that's going to be safe. Maybe some other things, but the bad advice that young people get, in my personal opinion, from higher education advisor type people, like, it's horrible advice. You're worse off. You'd rather not have the degree and not have the debt. It's criminal.
My daughter's a freshman in college, and some of the costs when we were looking at schools were outrageous. $100,000 a year.
It's crazy.
Yeah, GW is at that now.
It's insane.
It's amazing to me. I don't get it.
It's insane. You can get a good education that will be just as likely to get you a good job as anything else from a comparatively affordable state school, or, I mean, for people without significant financial resources of their own, a community college or a trade school could be an advantage that you didn't go into debt, that you did something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are gifted people who will succeed in whatever environment, truly gifted people from humble backgrounds who should go for the gold. It's not applicable advice to every person, but there's just way too much encouragement to young people to just like, oh yeah, if you'll take out a lot of debt, you'll study hard, you'll work hard, you'll get a good job, you'll pay that back. That is just not true. That stopped being true a long time ago.
The predatory system.
Yeah.
It should not be set up this way. No one should have to go into that amount of debt just to change the trajectory of their life. It just shouldn't happen. The government, the way it's set up to allow private industry to prey on students of all ages, all backgrounds with those types of loans. I mean, if you're an ultra wealthy, you're not taking out a loan.
Right.
It is hurting working class people who are trying desperately to get into the middle class in a very solid way that helps them, their community, and also our nation. So we got to reimagine what higher education looks like. And Robby, I agree. I mean, I was a tenured professor at a community college right here in Cleveland for years. That's where I got my start. Studies show that especially African Americans and then other people of color who start at a community college have a better chance when they matriculate to a four-year university to complete those degrees, because the environment is different. And then also life happens to people. So at least if you start at the 2-year, you could either take the trades or in 2 years, you could have at least an associate's degree. So that way, if something happens, you have some type of credential versus going straight to the 4-year. But the way higher education is funded, it does not have to be this way. And it shouldn't be this way. We need a new model. It's just, to me, it's just insane to treat people this way just because they're trying to better their lives.
Yeah. And the investment that we put in for educating people, particularly in fields that we need, will get paid back, 10, 20-fold over the lifetime. And we don't want to make that investment. We'd rather bomb Iran.
That's it. And Chris,
let's get another Tomahawk missile on the range here, which, could fund 5 people going to college for.
That's right.
Well, let's pivot to
dome. God forbid, this golden dome that does not work. The president is selling snake oil. It could cost up to $4 trillion, but it's rather sell that than to do something that helps edify individuals, communities, and this country. And especially when people are first generation college graduates, you change the trajectory of that entire household because you increase the likelihood that entire family is lifted. And so people more likely than not will be on the credit side of the ledger and not on the debit side. I mean, Chris, your point, it is an investment that pays dividends. I wish that we would reimagine education, start pre-K to college, at least 4 years. And then if you want to go beyond that, then, you pay for it, but it's a different model. It shouldn't be a predatory loan. Private banks.
I mean, why is there interest on student loans at all?
It's insane.
Right?
It's absolutely insane.
Let's pivot to the Iran war, since that got brought up, and that was kind of the news of the week. Obviously, Donald Trump making comments last night that could have been an email, could have been a Truth
Could have been a Truth Social.
Don't you love a meeting that could have been an email? You would have done better if it was an email.
He interrupted my Survivor for this.
Yes. What? Come on, guys. We're working enough. We don't need to pay attention at all times. I think the objectives of the war, in fairness, have become clearer as time has gone on from the administration's perspective. Not saying I necessarily endorse them.
What are they?
It has to degrade Iran's military capability, to destroy their means of harming our allies, our friends, Israel. That is the goal of the war.
That's the goal of every war, to degrade their ability to wage war.
But what I mean is the goal of the war is not the replacement of the regime. It is not the building up of democracy in Iran. It is not to spare the people there. It is to stop their lethal capabilities. That's the goal of the war. And I hope Trump knows that he only has so much time left before this will have the feel of being a forever war and will truly doom the presidency, and knows he can only let it go on so much longer, and can absolutely not. I hope he knows cannot involve ground troops.
I always get nervous when he says something's 2 or 3 weeks away.
Yeah,
because his healthcare plan's been 2 or 3 weeks away since 2015. I hope this war doesn't have a similar timeline. And I would think that he doesn't really know. And watching that speech last night, it was an embarrassment to have our president, one, who's been saying for the last couple of weeks that Gavin Newsom can't read a speech. He clearly can't read a speech either, right? I mean, it was horrible. And two, I don't walk away from that feeling any better. The markets surely didn't feel any better. Oil spiked while he was speaking. So, I mean, I think that we're not in a better place after hearing that speech, and I don't feel like it's clearer either.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, the fact that he keeps saying over and over again, we're not doing regime change, but the regime has changed and they're all dead. So it's totally fine. We just like did it on accident is insane. Okay, what comes next then? Who are you supposedly negotiating with in Iran? Because apparently you can't tell us that because somebody might kill them. Who might that be? Venture a guess. But we also have the president talking about a ceasefire on Wednesday morning that Iran completely rejects and says they never said that. And then he gives this primetime address to the nation and can be like suspiciously doesn't mention anything about the state of negotiations, just that he would like to negotiate. Also, it's Europe's problem to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as if global, as if oil is not a global industry.
Which they're absolutely not going to do.
And gas prices are going to magically go back to where they were before as soon as the war is over because America's energy independent. Like, what are we talking about? It is all insane to me.
Yeah, having had no plan for the Strait of Hormuz and then the plan being expect Europe to come to our rescue, I can't believe that was actually the plan. And that is
trust the plan, Robby. You
good.
just got to trust the plan.
Good. I mean, I hate to be a panican because, you know, it's no fun to be
Robby
panicking.
and I are like the tier 1 panicans.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think the base is with him, but they're going to lose faith real quick unless this gets wrapped up soon. And they're not doing enough to signal that there is a limit on how much involvement there will be. Like, why can't he just say, now it's Israel's job and we're not involved anymore? It's for their defense. Good luck. Have fun. They should send in ground troops if they want to do more. We're not sending in ground troops. It's not. We're not involved.
That's right. Why put our people in harm's way? And then, you know, he lied throughout this, lying on President Obama. Yes, President Barack Hussein Obama. That's his middle name that his parents gave him. But President Trump uses that as a smear, a dog whistle, a bullhorn, racist as hell. President Obama did not give, we were held in those people's money. So why would the president lie about that on President Obama? He didn't give them anything that wasn't already theirs. We were holding their reserves. And a lot of the American people, they start to believe this stuff. I mean, the president, I mean, I hate to say it. I just wish that he used his fearlessness to do some good and stop playing games with people.
What better deal does he's been consistently against the Obama era deal with Iran. So that was a bad deal. He can get a better deal.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly willing to be persuaded that that's the case, but what are the actual components of a deal that would look better than the one we already had in place to be worth setting so many billions of dollars on fire? Right? That's what we would.
Yeah, it will not be worth it in the end. Whatever comes out of this conflict will not be worth it in the end. It never is. I mean, didn't we? I mean, you guys on the top of the screen probably don't remember the Iraq War as well as Nina and I do, but it wasn't that long ago. And it should be fresh in everybody's mind that's making decisions, especially this president.
I supported it, but I was in the 10th grade.
I was working in the U.S. Senate.
Amber was a baby.
But I mean, I was a young child when 9/11 happened, and then through, basically my entire formative years to the point where I became an adult, we were involved in Afghanistan. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of people like me who view that stretch of their life and that being such a large part of their life, that we have sort of like collective trauma from that whole experience, and watching, our classmates join the military upon graduation. I'm from a small rural town. It was either there were, some people who went to college a lot of people who went in the trades and a lot of people who joined the military. And they were going off and fighting in a conflict that in some cases their parents had been fighting in, and that they were too young to understand when it started. And that was very radicalizing for a lot of us.
Yeah.
We've got, I think, Thomas up next. Let's get Mr. Thomas up here. Hello, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey guys, how's everyone doing
Hello.
today?
Nice to see you.
Nice seeing you all. A couple things. As you all know, I'm very, very conservative, but I kind of agree with the universal health care to a degree. And a thought of where we can get the money is pull the money out of NATO, get out of NATO, and put it to the US. And actually
America first.
go back with the trading programs. I don't know if you saw the article out in Washington State. They're partnering with a lot of the businesses and treating straight trades. And not a lot of people think trades of low skill. I'm talking about high skill trades, where you're actually wrong, Chris, about the AI with construction. There's a lot of construction utilities now that people are getting trained to use robotics to help build things, such as automobiles, housing. But we need a high skill, high wage paying. And I'm a firm believer you don't need a college education in the United States to do that. We were told, I was born, I graduated in '82. That was 17% interest rates on housing, by the way, 17%. A job, if you could get a job, was either in sales or telemarketing, and you're making about $10,000, $12,000 in tips. And yes, you needed both people in your household to work. What I'm saying is times have always been tough, okay? I know the view is, hey, our parents are always going to be doing better, and our grandparents are doing better. I think some people are doing better, and I don't think you need an education, an academic education. I think you need a skills training, and I think we should look at these skills and partner with these companies and try to get America working hard and trading those skills. I know I was a scout leader for 19 years. And exactly what Nina said about community college, I would recommend people going to community college rather than partying for 2 years at the local college, and that way they can make a decision. And military is not a bad decision, by the way. You can learn a lot of skills that way. Not necessarily, the shooting skills, but I'm talking about there's a lot of other military skills that you can apply. My own brother went through the FAA. He got trained in airman and then became an FAA controller and then became, a regional controller. He worked his way up. But it does take time. You're not going to get the $300,000 salary coming out of school. You're going to have to, pay your dues. And I think a lot of people lose track of that. I do think there's a lot of people that will do manual labor. I think there's a good profession. And I'm sure you guys have all hired a plumber for your household, and you see what they make per hour
this week.
Yeah. So
the
that's some thoughts.
the spaceship needed one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that. They right when the launch was delayed of
Yeah.
Artemis 2 because they needed to fix the toilet.
Yeah, it happens. Things happen like that, and it's just something we should consider, that maybe some of our trades and our hard people that are skilled with that we should actually put more our monies and time with that and partner with our corporations and companies, small and large.
Yeah. I mean, earlier we were talking about the push for higher ed. And as a college professor, that was always on my mind. But Thomas, you bring up a good point. It's higher skills. And that's what we should be talking about. For some people, maybe a college degree. For other people, it's trades or other things in that realm. We just need a competitive workforce. And then whatever genius, we talked about this months ago, but whatever genius thought that it was okay for America to stop manufacturing and for us to depend on a foreign entity to do most of the manufacturing, we really slit the throat of the American people. That NAFTA, CAFTA, we already know the negative results. of that right now today. I definitely understand hindsight is 2020, but just asinine, whoever thought that that was okay for us to be that dependent on foreign countries for manufacturing.
Who is next? I think we got Andrej. There he is, sir. Hello. Nice to see you.
Hey, immigrant advocate here. I think economists like Adam Smith figured out in the 18th century that the more people you have, the greater your economy, not taking them out. But apart from, the arguments like Chris had about, we need to constantly increase the amount of people in this country, not lessen. I'm just stymied by this, populism on the right. Whether it's these price controls on drugs that we have now, this idea that we can have a closed economy, this idea that more and more people should go into manual labor in this country. It sounds very Soviet Union 1970 to me, as opposed to the greatest and best country. And by the way, the toilet needed to be fixed by a coding issue, not by a plumber. So I don't understand this new vision of America, which is deport people, have less people, pull out of your agreements with other countries, and then somehow we will be an economic powerhouse and things will be better for us. I think, have any of you seen a bill in Congress that is for more benefits for the American people as a result of any of the Doge cuts, as a result of any of the cuts for CISA or anything? It's kind of like when Boris Johnson did his big campaign about Brexit and all that money is going to go into NHS, but nobody actually passed legislation to increase the benefits for NHS. So my question is, what has ever been proposed for the benefit of Americans for cutting all this other stuff out from sharing with the world?
Nothing. And it cost Americans.
Yes.
And it's still costing us, and it's going to cost us long after this man is gone, because why are people even going to go work in those jobs? Good people have left and they've gone on to other things. It's horrible. It was horrible.
I'm for cutting all those things, but we didn't put it into law, so they can all be easily reinstated. And
well, look, Robby,
they rehired most of the people they cut anyway.
Think that you're for cutting waste. And do I think that there's waste in government?
More than just waste. Of
course there's waste in government, but when you fire the guys who are keeping track of the nukes, for example, and you got to call them to get them back because there's nobody taking track. Maybe a little thought before we just went in there with the sledgehammer, because the United States of America does a lot of things for a lot of people, and there are a lot of good people who have dedicated their lives to doing it.
Okay, but
the way this was done was horrible.
The most controversial cuts are all this aid for the third world that is not politically popular. That what the plan is just forever for American taxpayers to pay for. What is it getting?
Oh my God.
People hate us. It's not working.
I would jump in there and agree with Robby on the soft power point. I mean, USAID was giving how much money to Africa for the better part of 3 decades?
Forever.
And not they have only aligned themselves closer with China.
For some crisis that just like one-off crisis, but that was the plan forever.
So treat Africa like a continent with over 55 nations. Let's talk about the imperialist powers, Amber, and the colonization that destabilized the continent. Those things have generational ripple effects. So it's kind of like
200 years ago?
Bro, yeah, absolutely, Robby. Like 200 years ago.
Let's 80 years ago.
That the United States of America, along with Israel, along with Argentina, okay.
Well, reparations is a different argument than soft power, right?
No, but you know what? Basically, what the United States of America, Israel, and God knows, I don't even know why Argentina jumped their little butts in this, has basically said to Black Americans is go kick rocks. For you not to even a non-binding resolution that laid it out, that the transatlantic slave trade was one of the most horrific things.
It's bad. It's horrific.
No, not just bad, Robby. And
it's whatever you said.
They couldn't even say that. And then the 52 countries, mostly in the EU, didn't have the guts to vote no, so they abstained, and that's just vote no without a spine.
But this is payments to African countries that we're talking about that are for their own medical care.
Connected.
that
All
I
this
just
stuff is connected.
it just doesn't matter. I can't. There's no way I can defend this policy of the American people and say you are responsible for paying for drugs and healthcare things these people need, obviously, forever.
Why do you think we are all connected? Period. The world is a lot smaller. So
you're worried about immigration. What causes immigration faster than famine?
Right, be stable.
Like why are we
well, the
not?
policy should be to allow these countries to become independent, and if we've been giving them
Here's
endless
the thing.
aid for 30, 40 years and they
Here's
haven't
the thing about the
improved
policy.
their outcomes, like we're doing something wrong.
The policy was set by Congress, and it was taken apart by the president without an act of Congress. And to quote Roberts yesterday, new world, same constitution. And I think that the president of this United States has ignored the Congress to the detriment of all the people in this country.
Well, that's fine. I wish they should have voted on it. I agree with that.
Well, again,
there's no disagreement there. You're right.
Well, again, like this, everything that this man has done that has subverted the Constitution and has marginalized Congress. And Congress, Johnson has just let him do it.
They want to be marginalized.
Basically let him.
They have a marginalization fetish.
True.
They are basically a lapdog. And I got to tell you, they
feel the way about marginalization as Kristi Noem's husband feels about balloons.
Can you imagine sitting there behind her and he's over there?
Oh boy.
I'm just saying.
Let me get this straight. So the president, Andrew, you put something in the chat that I kind of glanced at. I think he said, so let Ebola flourish. Yeah, the example that I was going to give is the pandemic. I mean, so you let nations that don't have as much resources or the resources have been suppressed and you just let all of that stuff fly. Eventually it comes home.
Yeah.
However,
we had the pandemic because we paid for them to do unsafe research in a Chinese lab.
Here we go. You know what, Robbie? We're gonna need a whole other show to do that dance.
Okay. So, Robbie, you want to talk about the $1.5 million that Trump cut out of the budget?
I would have zeroed the
that would have protected the
experimentation on viruses budget
Ridiculous.
To zero.
I mean, European anyway. The president of the United States, what did he say? We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We're fighting wars.
But we can take care of their Ebola problem. I get
possible for us to take care of daycare.
I don't want Ebola to spread either.
But
the plan
has to increase the military industrial complex.
Yeah, he wants to.
When are the people going to become too big?
I don't think you can honestly go to the American people.
$1.5 trillion.
I don't think you can go to the American people and say, we're being honest, we are going to pay for Ebola to not happen forever. That's the plan.
No, I don't. You can go to the American people and say 1.5 trillion for defense, right? But we can't do 100 million for Ebola.
I don't think this is fair because Robby and I are somehow having to defend Trump in every political decision.
Well, sorry.
I don't know why you have
I would lower that defense budget.
The Daily Caller should have done an editorial about how bad he was. Well, now he's horrible. He's a joke. He's making every conservative look like a joke, and I don't believe it.
We have plenty of Defense Department reforms to make.
You think?
Yeah,
you think?
You should read the Daily Caller op-ed page, and frankly, the front page from the past 2 weeks. Have you not seen our
very war critical?
Where have you been?
I have seen it. Yes, I'm sorry.
Come on, that's a little. Daily Caller should read it. Come on.
Look. Here's the problem. Okay. When you don't have robust debate around the direction of the country, because the Congress is basically a lapdog to this president, because they're worried about being primaried from their right, even though we got a bunch of right-wing nuts there already, we're not going to ever have a policy that the American people could get behind, which is why the president's approval rating right now is hovering in the low 30s.
I guess my point is that when Robby and I say we have objections to certain things that are done by USAID, or that we think that the focus should be more on America, and then you're like, well, Trump is doing the war. Like, we also oppose that. So I just think that's kind of bad faith.
Right, but you don't do it as loud as you did with the USAID.
That's
right. Look,
Amber's been pretty loud. She's been louder than I have, honestly.
We just had a guy come on who was mostly reasonable, but he started out by saying we don't need NATO. Pennies on the dollar compared to the $500 billion he's going to need to replace that alliance, and probably trillions more forever. By the way,
Chris, I am
forever,
capable.
in
I am
perpetuity.
capable of being sold on the soft power argument. In all honesty, I understand that, and I could be,
Robby.
but I need to see more out of. I need to see more tangible results
I
for
get
spending
it,
this money
but
this
you
way.
should have been asking for more from the guy running for president like 2 years ago. Like I've heard this from conservatives now, reasonable conservatives like you, Robby. And I'm sorry, I'm not picking on you. You're just right in front of me.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
so I've heard this from good conservatives. They text me on Saturday morning or Sunday morning during the Sunday shows to tell me how embarrassing the Democrats are. I am wondering if they are texting their conservative friends who are still MAGA about how embarrassing this president and the incompetent boobs around him are. Okay, because they are useless. Okay, and they are with few exceptions, and there are a couple people in there that I think are trying hard. But for the most part, this is the worst cabinet in the history of cabinets. And they were only selected because of their loyalty to Donald Trump and not to the Constitution and to the people or even the agencies which they are trying to serve. It's crazy. And I keep hearing, oh, we got to work on, I keep hearing the reasonable conservative arguments that were like 10 years ago. You're too young to even be making them, Robby. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing the conservative arguments I used to have when I first started on Fox. When I first started on Fox.
Keep talking.
But those they don't even exist anymore. Right now, we got to get past this era of insanity that this country has been embraced by.
You think there's something beyond this era?
Fights about USAID and about other things that, little cuts here to programs, cuts there to programs. Right now, I think everybody who's reasonable in this country needs to say enough's enough. I tell this story. I don't know if I've told this story here. When I started as a stand-up comic back in the early 90s, and I was young, I just got out of high school, I got asked to do a gig for a prom, and I was pumped. I was getting killed. No laughs, nothing. The older comics came and pulled me off the stage. They said, enough. I think we need somebody to say enough with this president at this point. And I think the voters are going to do that in November. But I think that there should be some other people in this country. I think reasonable conservative voices need to start saying it every single day. And you guys are both reasonable conservative voices.
Alan has his hand up. I don't know if we can get him in.
Yeah, let's get one more. Let's get one more hand. Alan, probably.
Sorry if I'm exhausting you, Robby. I don't know. I had a Starbucks right before I came on.
It's a long day. Hello, Alan. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. Big fan of two-way. Been watching the group chat since it started.
Wonderful.
Colleen comes on a lot on both all the two-way shows, and I know Colleen's a Democrat. I'm on the Republican side, and she often talks about, and I'm just gonna use her as she talks about having a message. And Chris, you're a smart guy. I've listened to you on two-way when you come on, and what I heard for the past 5 minutes is Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad, Trump bad.
Yeah, he's bad.
Where's the solution? You're going.
The solution is that the 25th Amendment should be put in place right now.
Go ahead, Alan. Go ahead.
All I'm hearing is Trump bad. I'm not hearing any solutions. And for anyone in the middle, that's what they hear. And you're going to have a solid policy. And you can say, I'm a conservative, I'm a maggot, I'm a Trump devotion syndrome. You can throw all that at me.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking you, like, if you want to give the people solutions, give them a solution and stop directing this hate towards Trump.
No,
that's what I heard.
I'll give you the solution right now. We need a Congress that does its job and performs a check and a balance on the president of the United States.
Congress has abdicated their authority, their Article 1 authority.
That is
both parties. All they care about is getting reelected.
That is my main concern right now, and that is the solution, right? The solution, the founding documents have it. You read Federalist 52. Ambition must be made to counteract ambition. That's how you keep a republic and you don't end up with a monarchy. What we have right now is a Congress that lacks ambition to hold its power against the power of the president.
I mean, Congress lacks ambition to check the president and also to implement his agenda. They lack ambition to do literally anything.
Yeah,
right. This is part of the problem, is that things Trump is trying to do that we would, things I would support and things I wouldn't support, have no permanence about them because they're not being put into law.
You know what part of the problem is, Bobby? And you probably won't agree with me because you like smaller government.
Yeah.
I think the districts are too big, way too big. We haven't changed the size of the Congress in 100 years. We have 150 million more Americans represented by the same amount of people in Congress. That is not what the founders intended. They wanted the House of Representatives to be close to the people so that when they went home and they went to the bakery or they went out to get dinner, they would get confronted by their constituents and then they would reflect that in their service to the country. And they didn't want them to stay there forever either. And they sure as hell didn't want them spending all day raising money. And that's what they got to do now.
We're going to have to go in a sec. Let's get quick last words from Amber and Nina, please.
Campaign finance reform, baby.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm good to go.
All right. We'll leave it there then. Lovely to spend the afternoon with my wonderful co-panelists today and with all of you. We appreciate your feedback, your comments, and we will see you for more group chat next week. Bye-bye.